He remain Achashverosh. When we tell the story of the Rebbe, the kavanah, and that is the purpose of that is that to reveal more kedusha in the world, and because you see something above nature, that helps you to see something more in this world. When it says in Chumash, which we just learned recently, and Parshas Yisro, it says before Matan Torah, Vayemer Hashem el Moshe, the Eibusha speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, Hineni boy lecho ba'av ha'onon, I'm going to reveal myself to you in the thickness of a cloud. B'shomu ha'om b'dabri imoch, the people, the Yidden, will hear the way I speak to you, and as a result of that is the gam b'cho yaminu la'olam. So they will have emunah in you also, as we say in the davening every day. Vayaminu b'Hashem uva Moshe avdei. Says Reb Shimon bar Yochai, the Rashbi, he who believes in Moshe Rabbeinu is considered that he believes in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he who chas v'sholem does not believe in Moshe Rabbeinu, it's considered that he doesn't believe in Hashem. We believe in Moshe Rabbeinu because he is that individual that he has that direct connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'shas we say that b'shas we tell the story of the Rebbe, it's not to make the Rebbe bigger, chas v'sholem, we're not going to make him bigger. It's only that as a result of this story, we see that the Rebbe is so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he becomes, so to say, the conveyor, the intermediary, through whom HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings down, reveals godliness into this world. The previous Rebbe once said that when you hear a Meiser from a Rebbe, don't come and say that you heard it already. Because if Bahashgocha Prodis, by divine providence, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made that you should hear this story again, said the Baal Shem Tov, that from everything that we see and from everything that we hear, this is a message being sent to that individual from above, how to improve his relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So says the Rebbe Rayatz, that when you hear a story from a tzaddik, even if you heard it before, but being that by Hashgocha Protis, you hear the story now, you have to ask yourself, why did Hashem make that I should hear this story now again? It's a siman that the story has a special message to strengthen me in my avodas Hashem. So when I tell stories, it could be that you heard it before, but based on what the Rabbi Yad says, it should be like a new story. This Meiser, we heard, me and another two people, we heard this from the individual with whom the Meiser took place. And we heard this story about 3 years ago. The story is that he was invited to a wedding in Holy Torah, and there was a very large crowd. When the chosin came in, of course, everybody started to dance, but he noticed that an elderly gentleman was sitting by the side of the table, and all he was doing is clapping with his hand, but he didn't participate physically in the dancing. And the young man tells him he doesn't know why, but something came to him. He should ask this Yid, who is he? So he goes over and he gives him Shalom Aleichem, and he asks him, may I know what is your connection to this chassan? And he says, I happen to be the grandfather of the chassan. He said, you're the grandfather of the chassan, you should be one of the first to dance with the chassan while he's sitting at the table. He says, I'll tell you. He says, a week before the wedding, my grandson, the chassan, came to me, and he says, Zayde, we're sure that you want to give us a present for the wedding. So I told him, what kind of question? So the chassan says, could we suggest to you what the present should be? So he tells this young man, I told my grandson, I don't sign a blank check. I have to know what you're going to offer me, what you're going to tell me. I'll see if it's possible. So he tells this young man, my grandson told me that you were born about 70 odd years before in Russia, and at that time it was very dangerous to make a bris. being that we want to give you a bracha under the chuppah, we do want that the bracha should be said after you have a bris. And being that there's still a whole week before the wedding, maybe during this week you'll have the bris. So he tells this man, such a present I cannot refuse. And just 2 days ago I had the bris, so I'm not in a physical condition to get up to dance.
Oh my God.
Says the younger man, he doesn't know why. He put his hand in his pocket and he takes out $1. And he tells this gentleman, if a person in your age is ready to have a bris milah, you have to get a present. And my present to you is $1 from the Rebbe that I got. And the young man says, when this Yid got $1, he started to cry. So he says, why are you crying? You should be happy you got $1 from the Rebbe. He said, I'll tell you. He says, 23 years ago, before that, now it's 26 years, 23 years ago, he says, I was standing on a Sunday in line to get $1 from the Rebbe. The Rebbe takes $1 and hands it out to me. But before I had an opportunity to get the $1, the Rebbe pulled the $1 back. I couldn't understand. And the Rebbe asks me, did you have a bris already? I told him no. And the Rebbe tells me that soon after you will have a bris, you'll get $1 from me. So he tells this gentleman, why from all the people did you come and ask me who I am? Because the Rebbe saw that I had the bris. The Rebbe had to keep his word that I'm going to get $1. The Rebbe saw that you have $1 with you. So the Rebbe first gave you in your mind that you should come over and ask me who I am. And when you heard that I had the bris, the Rebbe gave you in your mind that you should give him the $1 in order that he should be able to fulfill his promise. Maybe what did this Meister tell us? This Meister tells us that we should not chas v'sholem think that there was something of Gimel Tammuz that the Rebbe left us. It's not true. In fact, the Rebbe brings down in Gegeres HaKodesh from the Zohar, Ishtakach b'hai almo yotem b'chayohi. The Rebbe is in this world more than he was before. Why? Before the neshama left the body, so to a certain extent the physical body put a limitation on the neshama. But once the neshama is separated from the physical body, so the neshama can be all over, like Eliyahu Novi. At the very moment that you have a bris here in Crown Heights, and we say Zeh HaKisha Shel Eliyahu Novi, that very moment there are hundreds of brisin taking place all over the world, and over there you also saw Zeh HaKisha Shel Eliyahu. How could that be? But because Eliyahu Novi is not bound, and he's not limited by his physical body, so the neshama of Eliyahu Novi can be all over the world at the same time. So this is what we have to understand when they gave to the Rebbe. The Rebbe saw that this Yid had the bris. The Rebbe saw that this gentleman has $1, and through him he could become the Rebbe Shaliach to fulfill his word that he promised this Yid that he's going to get $1, and that's what happened. So this Ma'aseh is only to strengthen, in addition to that we have Amunah, what the Zohar says, that Ishtaka Bahai Al Miyatu B'Chayhi, that he's on this world even more than before. But the very fact, when you see a factual thing taking place, it's natural that a person has a greater feeling for it. But Be'emes, even before Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe was all over. There was one Saturday night, I was sitting in the office, I received a phone call from a Lubavitcher, a man living in another country. And he says, you must do me a favor. I said, what's the favor? He said that yesterday, Erev Shabbos, about 5-10 minutes before the lighting of the candles, my wife fainted. We called the ambulance and they could not revive her. They had to take her to the hospital. And even in the hospital, they had a difficult time till they revived her. I just came from the hospital and the doctors say that she's still in a very critical condition. So please go into the Rebbe, here's her name and her mother's name, and ask the Rebbe for bracha that she should be well. Gave over the name, the thing to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, call him back and tell him 2 things. Number 1, the Rebbe said, tell him that he'll be at the oil, the Rebbe, and ask her Alatziyin, and I'll mention her at the oil. And then the Rebbe says, tell him as follows. Friday night, between 5 o'clock in the morning and 5:30 in the morning, her condition was so serious that the doctors gave up on her. You think that what stabilized her condition was the medical treatment? And the Rebbe says of Yiddish, nay, no. I thought about her. And because I thought about her, that's what stabilized her condition. And then the Rebbe says, why am I revealing to him that I'm sitting here, this is what the Rebbe said in Yiddish, but this is what the Rebbe said, I'm sitting here in Crown Heights, and I know what happened Friday night between 5 and 5:30 in another country. Why am I saying it? I want he should know that you cannot hide from me. Wherever you're going to be, I see where you are. I called the person, I asked him, he says, yeah. Around 5:15 in the morning, the phone rang. I woke up my grandson, 3 years old. He should pick up the receiver. And the doctor tells me that the condition became very, very serious. And we don't know how much more time you'll have to say goodbye, to try to be here as soon as possible. And from his house, it says, to the hospital, it takes about 20, 25 minutes. When we came to the hospital, so the nurses calmed us down, and they said the situation stabilized a bit. So here, the Rebbe is sitting in Crown Heights, and the Rebbe says that he saw that this woman was in a danger, and he was thinking about her. But you have to know another thing. One of the conditions that the previous Rebbe made with the Rebbe before the previous Rebbe accepted and agreed that he should become his son-in-law, so one of the conditions were that the Rebbe has to be up every Friday night and learn the whole night, not to go to bed. So 5 o'clock in the morning, the Rebbe was sitting in his house, sitting and learning. Suddenly, he saw a red light come up, so to say. Because you know how today everything is wireless, so you can find even with wires, you can know everything. And wireless, they had wireless much before it became actually. So the Rebbe saw a red light, and the Rebbe tried to trace it, where it's coming from, and he saw. So the Rebbe stopped learning, as the Rebbe says, because he had to think about it. So the Rebbe stopped learning to help this woman. So what is the Rebbe saying? I'm sitting here in Crown Heights, and I see what's happening in another place. We're getting close to Pesach. 1 year, 2 days before Pesach, the Rebbe tells me, call up this and this shaliach in Europe, and tell him he has to drop everything he's doing and go to this and this town. And when he's there, he'll find a Yid, and he'll know what he has to do. I call up the shaliach, and the shaliach says, have pity on me. I said, what's the matter? He said, we're expecting 400 people to the Seder. It's only 2 days before Yom Tov. We have so much work. To go to that city can take me one way about 4 or 5 hours till I come back. So I said, look, the Rebbe told me to tell you, you should stop everything you're doing and go to that city. Go back. I'm just telling what the Rebbe said. Shame. A few weeks after Pesach, I get a call from him. I have to tell you what transpired, what took. I heard such words. I told my wife, you take everything over, I have to go. So I come to that city. It's a small town. You know, nothing. I went into City Hall, and I asked him, you have a list of all your members here? Is there a Jew over here? No, this city has no Jews. At that time, there was no cell phones. He didn't know what. He thought maybe I made a mistake. I gave him the wrong number, and he wanted to get. So he decided to go back. He stops at a gas station. So the owner of the gas station asks him, what is a Jew with a beard doing in our city? So he says, I told him I'm looking for a Jew. This city, a Jew? Oh, 1 minute, he says. A half an hour from here, there's a butcher shop. And I'm almost sure that the owner of that butcher shop is a Jew. This was 5:15. And the owner of the gas station gave me directions. He said it should take him about a half hour. He tells me he came there 5:45. When he opened the door of the butcher shop and the owner gave a look at him, the owner fell and he fainted. I ran up. I picked him up, I washed his face with cold water, and I said, I don't understand. I didn't come with a gun, I didn't come with a knife. What happened over here? He said, let me calm down and I'll tell you. He says, I am married, and we have 2 young daughters, 16, 17 years old. We are the only Jews in this town. The priest comes to me from time to time, and he says, why do you have to be different? Why don't you join us? And I tell him, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you know that in all the generation Jewish people let themselves be killed, thrown into water, thrown into fire? We don't do those things. We live with it and we die with that. He said, last week he came to the store, and he says, I am not leaving this place till you promise me you're going to do what I want. So I was thinking, how could I get rid of him? All this he's telling this shliach, and shliach is telling me he wanted the Rebbe to know. So I tell him, such a drastic move I can't do on my own. I have to discuss it with my wife, with my 2 daughters. They're grown people already. Give me a week. Next week you come and I'll give you my answer. And he tells the shliach, as soon as this guy left his store, he turned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, Rebbeinu Shalom, you must give me a sign that you don't want me to do what he wants. One day passes, another day passes. Today is the last day. He is supposed to come 6 o'clock to get my answer. 5:30, I told my wife, we still have no sign from Hashem. It seems he doesn't care. If he comes, I'll say, okay. You open the door a 5:45. So I saw Hashem did send me a sign. And I became so emotional, and that's what caused me to faint. So I tell this young man, you hear what he was telling me? When the Rebbe tells you, you must stop immediately, had chas v'sholem, you come 5:05, we would have lost not only this family, but everything that would be developed from it. The Rebbe is sitting in Crown Heights. He sees that there's a family in Europe that chas v'sholem is in danger, and we have to save that family from committing this most severe avera. And the Rebbe sees that you can be the shliach to help him. And the Rebbe says, tell him he should stop everything and go immediately. Because the Rebbe knew you have to get there before 6 o'clock. And the Vine, he tells me that he invited them, he told them, being that Pesach is coming up the next 2 days, so they came to him for Pesach. And then a few years later, the shliach called again. He said, I just came back from Eretz Yisrael, and I'm standing at the kotel. Someone taps me on my shoulder, and I turn around, and he asked me, do you recognize me? I said, no. I see a yid with a beard, with the tzitzis and everything. He said, look in my eyes. Oi! You're the owner from that butcher shop, that small town. He says, yeah. He says, you remember you invited me and my wife and my daughters to you for Pesach? And after Pesach, you didn't let us go back home. You kept us for a while. And during that time, your wife and you taught us what a Yid is. And when we came back, my wife said that if we are Yidden, we have to leave this place, and we have to make Aliyah to go to Eretz Yisrael and live as Yidden are living. So not only did the Rebbe save them chas v'sholem from not doing what the Goy wanted, but the Rebbe made that they should become Baal Tshuva, and now all the offspring that's going to come, generation after generation, is from a Yidden. Again, the Rebbe is sitting in Crown Heights. His neshama is clothed in a physical body. And still that physical body did not cause any limitation on the Rebbe that he should not be able to see what's happening all over the world. So Mamela, this one has to encourage us that if this was before Gimel Tammuz, and as mentioned before, that the Zohar says that now the Rebbe is with us even more than before, we all have to understand it's not only a question of believing, but we can go story after story to show you, like this Maisa with the Dawa, and the many other stories that we can tell you, where we see that the Rebbe is actually watching over each and every one of us. You know that the Rebbe gave out the 12 psukim and Moral Chazal for children to say. So it was an altar chosed. He says, I'm the Rebbe's a child. So I say to you, Beis psukim every day also. The Rebbe said children have to say these Beis Hazala. I consider myself a child of the Rebbe, although my age is so and so. So one of it says, and what the Rebbe quotes on the Alter Rebbe and Tanya, that Hini Hashem Nitzav Olov, the Eibush is standing over you, Umabit Olov, and he's watching, and he's checking, he's examining and checking if you're serving Kodesh Baruch Hu the way you have to. The Hamedrash says, Tzadikim Doimim L'Beirum, that the Tzadikim are compared to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So B'Shas it says, V'hinei Hashem Nitzav Olov. So being that the Tzadik is compared, so we understand that the same thing is true. V'hinei HaRebbe Nitzav Olov. But then there's something very interesting. B'Shas you take out the Chumash Chukas, Pasha Chukas. There's a pasuk in Pasha Chukas that says, Vayedaber ha'om ve'elikim u'v'meisher. The Jewish people spoke against HaKadosh Baruch Hu and against Moshe Rabbeinu. What was their complaint? Lo mehel yisunu me'eretz Mitzrayim. Why did you take that from Mitzrayim and we're going through such difficulty in the desert and Azayvayim? On the words, Vayedaber ha'om ve'elikim u'v'meisher, what does Rashi say? Rashi says, Hishvu Eved L'Koinoi. They compared the servant, Moshe Rabbeinu, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Compared them. On the word Helisunu, Rashi says something different. Shneihem Shovim. When you compare two things, that means they're two separate things, but you can find similarities from one to the other, you can compare them. When you say Shneihem Shovim, it means to say that they're actually equal and the same in every aspect. Says the Rebbe, what does Rashi teach a 5-year-old child? Because we know that the Rebbe is saying that Rashi is for Ben Chomish L'Mikra. You want to know who Moshe Rabbeinu is. Moshe Rabbeinu is on Rashi, not only Hishvu, they compared Moshe Rabbeinu with Kodesh Baruch Hu. Shneihem Shovim, that they're both equal, it's the same thing. So what do we learn from this? That Moshe Rabbeinu is just like a Kodesh Baruch Hu is all over, and there's no time that we can say that Kodesh Baruch Hu is not here. As the famous story that Chassidim tell, that which as the Rebbe Marash was a young boy of 4 or 5 years old, one of the rich Chassidim in Lubavitch tells the Rebbe Marash, you know something? If you're going to show me where Kodesh Baruch Hu is, I'm going to give you a large amount of money. And what does the Rebbe Marash as a 5-year-old child tell him? You know, mister, if you're going to show me where Kodesh Baruch Hu is not, I'll give you even a bigger present. The stroking place, as the story goes, up, down, west, east, west, we're all over. What is this though? Because the first time Kodesh Baruch Hu is all over, and if our Chazal tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu is equal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe Rabbeinu is all over. And we know that his Pashtus or Zohar says that every generation there is a Yid who has a spark of the Neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu, which means that he possesses all the ingredients of Moshe Rabbeinu's Neshama. So just like we say that Kodesh Baruch Hu is all over, so this we can actually see the Rebbe is also over. That's why the Rebbe could see everything what's going on all over the world. What does this have to do? We have to know that the Rebbe is with us and the Rebbe is ready to help each and every one of us. As the Rebbe said that he stopped a minute of learning, and what did he do? He thought about this woman to stabilize her physical condition, which means to say that the Rebbe is here to help us in every way possible. However, we have to open up the channel that we have to bring the Rebbe closer to us. He's with us, but it should come in a more inward feeling that we should actually feel and realize that the Rebbe is with us. And besides we have that feeling, and we know that the Rebbe is with us, that will help, as it says, that Hini Hashem Nitzav Olov, that the Eibush is watching over us and seeing exactly how we're behaving, so that will help us, that knowing that we have the koyach of the Rebbe, that our behavior should be coinciding with what Hashem expects of us and what the Rebbe expects of us. So this is also what it comes in the Megillah, which the Chazal say, Motche b'deirei ke Moshe b'deirei, that just like Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of the Jewish people, and he saved the Jewish people, The same thing is also in Gemara, as Mordcha B'Deirei, Mordcha also saved the Jewish people, and he's compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. So we see that the Chazal say that in every generation, the Tzaddik Hador is compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. But all this that's being discussed is what Chassidim, Mishnas Mezitzon Fabrein, so Elton Chassidim always used to emphasize how much we have to appreciate, understand that we have Eibishter with us, and but the Bank with the Eibishter, the Chazal, and the Alter Rebbe brings it down in page Beis of Tanya. V'chi efshel hidober b'Kodesh Baruch Hu, can we cleave directly into Kodesh Baruch Hu? They say the Chazal, hidovik b'Talmidei Chachomim, cleave to the Talmidei Chachomim, and through that you will be able to connect yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And from this we understand that just like we know that the Eibishter is here, but in order that we should be able to have that direct connection, so the Chazal tell us, and the Alter Rebbe brings it down in Tanya, that it has to go through the Rebbe, through the Talmidei Chachomim, through the Rebbe. So all this is just to encourage us even more and more, how much we have to strengthen our hiskashus to the Rebbe. Hiskashus means that the Rebbe says in Hayom Yom, hiskashus means that we have to learn the teachings of the Rebbe, and we have to follow the guidance, the instructions of the Rebbe. May Hashem shall help us as we're coming from Purim. And Purim reminds of us, Mordcha B'Deirei, Moshe B'Deirei, that should encourage us that we should try to strengthen our discussions to the Rebbe, which means to try to do everything, our behavior should coincide, and should be dictated and directed how the Rebbe wants us to live. And the Eibishter tells him that that's chus that we found that opens up the channels from which the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Rebbe brings down everything that each and every one needs. L'chaim, l'chaim. Let me tell you something about this niggin. Those of us that remember the Rebbe when he arrived in America, of Chesiv and Tovshin Aleph in 1941, and then before Sukkot of Tovshin Beis, the previous Rebbe asked the Rebbe that he should set aside one night of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva to make a farbrengen for Talmidei Yeshiva, for students, not only for Chabad Lubavitch, for all of New York. So the Rebbe said at night, that night when the Rebbe came into the sukkah, he took a piece of mezainis, and he made mezainis, and made leisha basukkah, and then he took a tea glass, and he filled it up with vodka. He made shahakol, and the first drink that he took, he made sure that it should be more than half of the glass. And then the Rebbe said a sikha, and after the sikha, the Rebbe started a niggin. After a few minutes, the Rebbe got up and he said he wants that we should have a coffee around all the tables on the sukkah. After dancing for a while, the Rebbe picked up his hand, and the Rebbe said, Atkan hakofa aleph. Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, it's not Simchas Teda, it's not Shmini Atzeres, Atkan hakofa aleph. The Rebbe sat down, he took the bottle and filled up the glass again, and again he made sure that he's drinking more than half. He said a sikha, he started singing the same niggin again. The same thing happened the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time. After the fourth hakofa, the Rebbe said that the other three hakofis he's going to finish making a bringing Shmini Atzeres. But after each of those sikhs, the only niggin that the Rebbe sang was this niggin. The same thing happened in Tovshin Beis, Tovshin Gimel, Tovshin Dalet, Hey, Vov, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud. The only niggin that the Rebbe sang was this niggin. So those of us that remember that, we consider this the Rebbe's niggin. That's why whenever during the Farbrengen, they would start this niggin, the Rebbe would go overboard, so to say, make with his hands and get very, very frail with this niggin. So l'chaim, l'chaim. Speaking about stories, you know that we had this Hasidic artist, Reb Handel Lieberman. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's the brother of Reb Mendel Futterfass. He told us that one day the Rebbe called him. And the Rebbe tells him that the Rebbe said he heard that in the next week or 10 days, somewhere in mid-America, there's going to be an art exhibition. So the Rebbe tells Rabbi Handel, I would want that you should participate in that art exhibition, meaning to say, take all your Hasidic art and exhibit over there. And then the Rebbe tells him that although in that city there are many Hasidim who will be only happy to accommodate you, but I want you should take a room in one of the biggest hotels in the city. And Handel says he doesn't understand, but you don't ask questions. If the Rebbe says, you do what he says. He says he came to the city and he rented a booth where he should be able to exhibit his art, and he took a hotel, one of the biggest hotels. Said the morning before he went to the exhibition, he davened. Before he left his room, somebody's knocking on the door. He opens the door and standing over there, a middle-aged Yid, and he says, could I borrow your talis and film? He says, of course. He gives me the talis and film, and he said that this Yid went back to his room, and he started to daven. After 10-15 minutes, he said he heard that Yid crying bitter tears. And the Mendel said, I wished at that moment that on Yom Kippur, I should daven the way he davened then. He said the fellow finished the talis and film, he came back, he gave it to me, and we went to the art exhibition. The next morning, the same thing happened again, and the same thing happened on the third day. So Reb Handel tells us on the third day, when he gave me back the talis and film, I tell this gentleman, listen, today 1 o'clock, the art exhibition is closing. 3-4 o'clock, I'm taking a plane back to New York. What are you going to do tomorrow morning for talis and film? So the Yid tells him, listen, till I was 15 years old, I was a very Hasidic Shabbat, with all the trimmings. I don't know what happened. I stopped befriending a group of boys, and slowly but surely, they pulled me away. And he tells Reb Handel, it's already 35 years since the last time that I put on film. When I heard you davening this morning, it took me back to my young days, and I became very aroused. And I said to myself, I have to do something positive. So I took upon myself that I'm going to start putting on film. I have talis and film at home, and I'm going to start putting on talis and film. Said the Rebbe, now you understand why did the Rebbe tell me not to go to some chassid's house. I should take a room in the big hotel, because the Rebbe saw that he would be able to save this neshama when he'll hear me davening. Again, the Rebbe is sitting here in Brooklyn, and he sees what's happening somewhere in mid-America. And there's a Meiser told of the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash had 2 gaboim, 2 secretaries, you want to call it. The Rebbe Marash was very fluent in French. The gaboim said that one afternoon, suddenly, the Rebbe Marash opens the door from his office, and he tells us, we must go immediately to Paris. The first train that's going from Lubavitch, near Lubavitch, to Paris, we have to take it. Shame. They came to Paris, so they asked him, where does he want to stay? So he named the biggest hotel in Paris. At that time, to being the biggest hotel in Paris, a Frume Yid was not allowed to be there. It was contrary to modesty, contrary to everything of tznius that has to be in that time. But the Rebbe Marash said, so they came to the hotel. They asked him, which floor do you want to be? Because on the ground, on the first floor, they had that very big hole. And Dalton, over there, you know how it was, the exposures over there was unbelievable. And they didn't believe that. So he says, I want the room that's closest to the hole. Okay? So they took the room. After 20 minutes, the Rebbe Marash comes out, they say, and he stands by the door and surveying everything that's going on in that hole. He said, we ran away because we couldn't see what was going on over there. Everything, hepech hatznius on the highest level. After about 5-6 minutes, the Rebbe Marash goes into the hole. And he goes over to one of the tables. There were sitting men and women. And he goes over to one younger man, one gentleman, and he taps him on his shoulder. And he says, you're not allowed to drink wine that a goy taught you're not allowed to drink because it affects your mind. He waited a minute or two, and he did it a second time, and then he did it a third time. They say when the Rebbe Marash came out of the hall, at that time there were no elevators. What did you do if somebody lived on the top floor? So they had chairs, and they had very strong people that they would carry you up. The Rebbe Marash, when he came out of the hall, he was so emotional that he sat down in one of those chairs. So the people ran over right away, and they asked him in French, where does he want to go? He said, pardon, I'm sorry. I have my room over here. And he asked him, how much would you charge if I was on the top floor? They told him. He took out francs, and he paid them as if he picked himself up, and he went back into his room. About 20 minutes later, this gentleman that the Rebbe Marash tapped him on his back comes out of the hole, and he says, where's the Rabbin? I want to speak to him. So they went in, the Rebbe Marash said he should come in. He was by the Rebbe Marash for 2 hours. The Gaboim said when he came out, his face was red like a tomato. After he came out, the Rebbe Marash calls in the Gaboim. He said, mission accomplished, now we can go back to the Lubavitch. Then they said about a year and a half later, who came to the Lubavitch? This year came with the Lubavitch, with a bed, with other good Sachen. Again, the Rebbe Marash is sitting in the Lubavitch. He sees somewhere in Paris, B'tech HaKlippus, from the highest form, is a neshama that has to be saved. He picks himself up, and he travels to Paris, and he gets a hold of this neshama, and then as soon as he's finished, he comes back to the Lubavitch. Again, we see that the Rabbeim, the world does not have in any way concealed. In fact, there's a mimer that the Tzemach Tzedek wrote, and it's printed in his Sefer, which is called Sefer HaChakirah, and the mimer starts, Eile ha'edis v'ha'chukim ha'mishpatim. And in that mimer that Tzemach Tzedek says something which is something, I don't know how to describe it. And he says, the Chazal tell us that Adam Arishin was able to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world, with the light that Kodesh Baruch Hu created that light on the first day. So the Chazal say that Adam Arishin was able to see from one end of the world to the end. Says the Tzemach Tzedek that the Baal Shem Tov said it wasn't that he had the Ruach HaKodesh, that therefore he was able to see. Says the Baal Shem Tov that Adam Arishin with his physical eyes was able to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. Then says the Tzemach Tzedek that the Maggid Mimezrich said that the same thing we saw by my Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov, that he was able to see with his physical eyes from one end of the world to the end. Then says the Tzemach Tzedek that my grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, said that the same thing we saw by my Rebbe, by the Maggid. And then says the Tzemach Tzedek, and the same thing we saw by my grandfather, that he was able to see with his physical eyes from one end of the world to the other end of the world. And the Rebbe said many times, why is the new Rebbe that becomes the new Rebbe is called Memali Mokim? He fills up the place. Says the Rebbe, Memali Mokim says that the new Rebbe fills up the place of the previous one. That means he receives all the qualities and all the capabilities that the previous Rebbe had, and then he adds on something to it. According to that, if the Tzemach Tzedek says that the Baal Shem Tov was able to see Mesefer Olam Ad Seifim with his physical eyes, the Maggid says that the Baal Shem Tov was able to see it the same way. The Alter Rebbe says about the Maggid. The Tzemach Tzedek said the same thing about the Alter Rebbe. So we have to understand that all the Rebbes that follow, they were presented with all those abilities that the previous Rebbe had, but maybe that means to say that they had that koyach also. So therefore the Rebbe could sit in Crown Heights, and as he told this gentleman openly of that Saturday night, tell him that for me you can't hide. That means to say that the Rebbe is able to see what's going on all over the world, even when he had his neshama together with the physical body. And as mentioned before, how much more so now that the Zohar says that being that the physical body does not put any limitations on the neshama now, he could be all over at the same time. All this is what Chassidim must speak of, what discussed about bringing is to strengthen us, so we should know that the Rebbe Chas v'Sholem did not leave us. Royen Nemun, Ein Oizev, Eshem Arisa, it says Chazal, a faithful shepherd does not leave his flock. He's always with them. It depends how he's with them. Sometimes he's with the physical body, sometimes only with the neshama. But the Zohar says that Roya Nemen Eino Oizev Esay Marisi. He doesn't. And at the Lashon Chazal, I think what it says in regards to Moshe Rabbeinu, Ma ad halon, that just like till now he served the Jewish people, even after he passes away, so to say, he also is serving the Jewish people. All this is just to give us more encouragement and more strength, to strengthen our emunah, that we have to know that the Rebbe is here, the Rebbe is with us, and the Rebbe is watching over every one of us, and the main thing is that the Rebbe is giving koyach to everybody. There was one day I was by the Rebbe. When I say I was the Rebbe, not because I want to pride myself, because that's how I came out, the Metzias. That's how I know the thing to tell you. So I was thinking about the Rebbe, there was a discussion going on about the previous Rabbeim. And then the Rebbe stops and the Rebbe tells me, today is different than in the previous times. What is different, he says? In the previous generations, they waited, he didn't want to say the word the Rebbe, they waited till they were asked to help. Now the Rebbe says, we don't wait. And the Rebbe went like this. And the Rebbe says, now we pour from above without any stop. We don't wait till you're going to turn to us. But we ask only one request. Give us a plate in which this what we are giving to you should not fall, that the Rebbe said, to the floor, but you should be able to pick it up and use it. What is the Rebbe saying? He's standing, even when he had a physical body, him pouring, giving us all the brachas and everything that everyone has to have. He is standing there and giving it to us. But he wants that it should not go to waste. So he's asking us for a kli, for a vessel. What is that kli? That kli is to learn the Rebbe's memorim, to follow what the Rebbe tells us, and that becomes the vessel through which we will be able to receive all this that the Rebbe is downloading to us, as we call it today, to everyone has to have. So as the Rebbe is saying, in previous generations they waited till they were asked to help. Today we don't wait. We give what good we give to everybody without any limitations. So the Rebbe should help them. The Rebbe should help us that each and every one should appreciate what the Rebbe is doing for us, not waiting for us, but what he says, give me that vessel, and that's very important. That already we have to do ourselves. The Rebbe is not going to give us the vessel. The Rebbe wants that we should give the vessel. And as we give the vessel, we will receive all the brachos that we have to have. L'chaim, l'chaim. One of the chidushim that the Rebbe introduced to us, which was not known before, is that this year is considered a Shnas Hakel. There's no source in any of the Rishonim, Achronim, or before the Rishonim, that after the second night, after the Sukkot at night, when the king made the Hakel, that there should be such a concept that the whole year is considered a Shnas Hakel, and therefore to make gatherings and so forth. This is one of, so to say, the introductions that the Rebbe introduced to us, that this is an Ashnas Hakel, and therefore the Rebbe said each time when a group of people get together, that's considered an inyan from Ashnas Hakel. What was the purpose of Hakel? So it says in Pasuk that the people should hear the portions of Torah, and that will strengthen their Yiddishkeit and Yerushalayim. One of the things that the Rebbe always wanted is that they should have as many places of shuls to daven. It means to say, although people wanted to come to a central place, but if you make smaller shuls in a certain respect, it has a greater accomplishment. Why? Because you have a large place, a big shul, as I say, that the papers get swallowed up in the rush of papers. The individual loses his identity; he gets lost, and not everyone it takes watches over and look. It takes conscience of him as a writer. When you have a smaller crowd, you're able. Each one should have express himself and be able to feel that he's part of what's being done. When the Prefect Rebbe started the Lubavitch Yeshiva in New York, so it was a small island, but most of the Bochum that came, young men, were American boys. What do American boys know? Baseball, football, this ball, that ball, those things. Reb Zalman Garai Shalom, he was our principal, and he wanted to inject in the young Bochum a more feeling of chassidus. What would he do? Every Thursday night, he would take 3 bochrim to his house and have with them a private farbrengen. What was the purpose of that? He would ask them, tell me, what do you find difficult? What do you have questions? What do you appreciate? And through that, so when they speak in a group of people, people are embarrassed to ask. When the 3 of them were all alone, they were able to open up and speak. In the course of a year, these people were by here maybe 4 times. I have to tell you, I don't want to mention any names, that there are Chassidish in the light today living in Crown Heights. There are shluchim out as a result of these small farbrengens that Reb Zalman made, that they became Chassidish Yidden, and that they're doing the work what the Rebbe wants. So the Rebbe also wanted, in order that the person should not feel that he's just another pawn over here, and he can't contribute anything, or he's not, no, people are not taking cognizance of him as a writer. So that's why the Rebbe felt that we have small crowds, and this, that Shmir Atzeres at night, and Simchas Torah, before the people come to 770, in the shuls they make the hakofis. You don't know what you're accomplishing with that, because these kleine Yingelach, when you come to 770, they got lost. They don't know what's going on. There was one year that I wasn't able to walk from my house to 770 after Gimel Thomas, and I davened in one of the shuls over there on President Street. I was amazed to see there were maybe 40, 50 people in the shul, about 25, 30 young boys. They participated in every hakofa. They felt that this is for them. And you don't know what that is for them later when they went to 770, they also felt. So when you have a smaller place and there's an ability to be together and to discuss things privately in a way that otherwise it would not be done, it's a gewaltige thing. So maybe we have to give Rabbi Shushan a grace Yashikeach, that you have this in order to utilize it in a proper way. And as I say, that people have to be machazik it. Okay, don't satisfy yourself with 25 people. You will have 50 people who will also be able to accomplish it. So maybe don't satisfy only with 20, 25 people. I'm trying to say that this is one of the yonim that is being done, that the Rebbe always wanted, because he wanted that every person should feel that he's important. What is important? Not to make him a balgaiva. He's important enough that he has to hear what's been going on. He has to, maybe he could contribute something, what could be improved in the writer. He should be part of the entire inyanim. And when you have the smaller crowds, you can accomplish much more. So that's one of the things that I would like to mention. There are people that feel that after Gimel Tammuz, so let me tell you 1 or 2 stories that happened from the Oihel, which I was the shliach to be for them. When the Rebbe had the stroke in Shushan and Beis, in 1992, the doctors were taking blood, and they wanted to have the results as soon as possible. So usually when you go to a blood lab, it takes 3-4 days till you get the results. They wanted to find a way to get it sooner, so we found that about a half an hour away from Crown Heights, there is a blood laboratory that's owned by 2 Frume in the life, Nishkin Lubavitch, Litzvisher. I called them. They said, if this is for the Rebbe, you bring me the vial, the bottle of 10 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you have all the results. So, whenever the blood was taken, we would ship out to that place, and 4 o'clock, they would send us the results. A month passed, I called them, and I told them the Rebbe never wanted anything gratis. The Rebbe wanted to pay for everything. I want to have a bill. What is the charge for all these blood tests that you took? Rabbi, don't worry. Month after month, they almost told me you're going to get a bill, and I never got a bill. A week after Gimel Tammuz, one of the brothers calls me, and he says, Rabbi, you ready to pay for the entire 2 months? I said, to the last penny. You give me the amount now. Tomorrow morning you have a check on your desk, and you can deposit it, and it's not going to become from a daimon a mahalach, if you know what I mean. It's not going to come back. It's going to go through. He says, I'll tell you what my bill is. My wife and myself are married 9 years, and we were not blessed with a child. My bill is a yingler or a meidler, a child, a boy or a girl. That's my bill. I took his name and his mother's name, her name and her mother's name, and the next day I went over to Arteriel. That was mamash 8 days after the Stalkus. And I told the Rebbe the whole Maaseh, and I said that the bill is a child. This was Chodesh Tammuz, Tovshin Nun Dalet. Yud Dalet Kislev, Tovshin Nun Vav, a year and a half later, on the Rebbe's wedding day, he calls me, Mazel Tov, we had a boy. 2 years later, he called me again, we had another boy, and 2 years later, he called me, we had a meidler. We go to the oil, and we tell the Rebbe what the situation is. Then I got a phone call from an American lady who lives in Manhattan. My husband lost his job about a year and a half ago, and our savings is going all the way down, and we don't know what to do. We have friends who are the Babacher, and they said that if you get a blessing from the rabbi, things will be okay. So they asked me I should get a blessing for them. So I took her husband's name and his mother's name and her name, and I went to the Rebbe and I told the Rebbe, this was on a Monday. She calls me Thursday. She says, Rabbi, I know that you were by the rabbi, you were at the cemetery. I said, how do you know? She said, because yesterday my husband got 2 jobs. One job from 9 to 2 and another job from 3 to 7. Here a year and a half, nothing happened. As soon as I called you, and you went to the rabbi, so he got 2 jobs now. People that had no shachos to the Rebbe, at least what we know, and the Rebbe ahead that these people have to have a bracha. He got a bracha. I'm standing one day at the oil, and a young man comes over to me on a board. He says, Label, you don't know what the Rebbe is doing. Whenever I have a problem, I come here, and the next day or 2, the problem is solved. He says it's going already on for months. Whenever I have a problem, I come here, I tell the Rebbe my problem, and the Eibush to help. Rabbi Klein all of a sudden told us a Maaseh that he was standing at the oil, and he sees that a black couple walks into the oil, and crying bitter tears. So at first he thought they were Ethiopians. After they finished and he went out, so he started speaking to them. He saw that what Moshe, a black goyim. He asked them what happened. So they told him that they have a 30-year-old son. He was going with his motorcycle a day or 2 ago, and he got into a very serious accident. And the doctors told him that it's very, very critical. We heard that when you come to the rabbi, you get blessed. So we came here to plead with the rabbi that he should save our son. 2 weeks later, says Rabbi Klein, he made him again at the oil, and this time with a big smile. He asked them what happened. They said, the doctor don't believe it. The 2 days after we were by the rabbi, things changed, and yesterday he came home. So we came to inform the Rebbe and to thank him for the blessing that he gave us, that here the doctor said that in critical condition, who knows what's going to be, and as soon as we came to the rabbi, a week and a half later, he's home already. So he came to thank the Rebbe. What is this? The Rebbe sees everything. The Arizal says something very, very important to know. The Arizal says that B'shas a Yid comes to the oil of a tzaddik, so we know that the body of the tzaddik remains intact. It doesn't disintegrate. And you know the story with the Rabbi Rashab. I don't know if you know, I'll tell you the story. The Rabbi Rashab was buried in Rostov in a certain area. In 1939, Tofei Sadik Tes, Chassidim found out that the Russian government want to uproot all the graves, and they want to build a big condominium over there. And the Rebbe Rashab was right in the middle. So they sent a message to the Frierdiker Rebbe when he was in Atvotsk, what to do. So the Rebbe answered them that they should get 10 people, that they should fast that day, and at night they should go and take the Rebbe Rashab out of that place where he is, and take him to another place where it seems that over there they're not going to bother him. 2 of these people who were the minion came to the Rebbe in Tovshin Yud Gimel in 1953 to be by the Rebbe for Chayzus Tishrei. And they told us, we were part of the 10. He said it was Mamash HaSakon Gedalim. It was 1 o'clock at night, and there was no moon, because we were afraid that we were going to see. And we started uncovering the earth, and we almost fainted. The body of the Rebbe Rashab was intact, nothing was missing. We thought he was sleeping. He said, all of us, we all saw that. We picked up the body, and we transferred it to the other place in Baruch Hashem. So we see of Tarizal that the body of a tzaddik remains intact, it doesn't disintegrate. We know that every neshama has 5 levels. Nefesh, Ruach Neshama, Chaya Yechideh. When a person passes away, so the neshama goes up l'maylu. And the Gemara says, and Tosfos said that there's certain neshama, in certain times, that the neshama for the first year would come back again, but then after the first year, the neshama goes up and never comes back to the But at tzaddik, it's different. The level of nefesh, as we say in the Zohar when we go to the oil, that always remains floating, says Arizal, over the physical body of the tzaddik. And says the Arizal, B'shas a Yid comes to pray at the oil of the tzaddik, this level of nefesh connects itself, puts itself in the physical body, and the physical body naseh chai mamish, as that is all. The body becomes a live body, and therefore the tzaddik hears everything and sees everything. And from that we can tell you many stories. So what does it mean? That b'shas you come to the oil and you're asking the Rebbe, he sees everything going on. A young man told us one time that he was at the oil, and there was a 20-year-old bochel that asked him to give him a ride back to Crown Heights. And his 20-year-old bochel sat next to the driver. After we left the oil, he fell asleep. After a short while, he wakes up and starts screaming, "Oy vey!" So the driver asked him, "What are you crying? What are you screaming about?" He said, "You won't believe me. I'll tell you. The Rebbe came to me, and the Rebbe asks me, how is it that a bocher from Temchat Mimim came to me without a talis cotton, without your tzitzis?" So the driver says, "I picked up his shirt, and there was no talis cotton." He said, "What happened?" He said, "I forgot into the mikveh," whatever it was. So what does this tell us? And then later we spoke to the bocher himself. He says, 100%. The Rebbe came to me, and the Rebbe tells me, "Wie kommt us a bocher von Saal soll kommen on a talis cotton?" Come without a talis cotton. So that shows what Arizal says, that the tzaddik becomes a live mamish. And actually he says it in 3 places, not only in 1 place. He repeats it twice again. It's found out in called Shar Ruach HaKodesh from the Arizal, so he writes in 3 different places over there. So what does this mean? That the tzaddik is here, and the tzaddik hears everything, and he sees everything, and therefore when we come to the tzaddik, was once by a Bal Mitzvah, about 300 people there. So the father of the Bar Mitzvah called up a modern Orthodox rabbi to say a few words in honor of the Bar Mitzvah. So he says, being that a lot of Lubavitch Chassidim are sitting here, I want to tell you a personal story that happened with me, with the Rebbe, after Gimel Tammuz. He says that I was sitting in my office one day, and a young woman walks into the office and sits down and she cries. No, I'm accustomed. People come, to vent themselves. So I asked her, what are you crying about? She says that her husband left about 2-3 years ago, and he refuses to get a divorce. And I'm a young lady yet. I want to get married. I want to have a child. And nothing helps. I want you to get my husband to give me a get. So I took his name and his phone number and in. He says, nothing doing. I'm not going to let this woman get married again. She comes back a week later and he asks her, no. He says, no go. A few days later, she comes with her valise. She says to the crowd, and she says, I am not leaving this office till you get me a get. Nothing's going to help you, because I was told that you could have an influence. So he tells us he didn't know what to do. And finally, he came up an idea. He tells this woman, I'm sure you heard of the Lubavitch Rebbe, many people go to his grave and they get blessed. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning, I'll pick you up and you go to the grave and tell the Rebbe your problem, see what's happening. He tells this whole crowd. The woman came for an hour. She was standing and crying. The Rebbe, help me, you must help me. Shame. After she finished, we went back into the car and her phone rings. She picks up the phone. This is her lawyer. Your husband just called me that he decided to give you a divorce. So I took the phone, he says, and I told the lawyer, tell that man, this was about 4 or 5 o'clock, that 7 o'clock today he should be in my office. I'm going to have the sefer there. I'm going to have the witnesses, and I want the get to be given. I'm afraid that he should go to sleep. He'll get up tomorrow morning on the left side and he'll forget about it. So being that was agreeable to give it, he should come. And he tells us, 7 o'clock, the gentleman was there and he had prepared everything. By 8 o'clock, they got the get. He says, for 2-3 years, nothing helped. She came to the Rebbe, and she really meant what she said, and the Rebbe heard her. Why suddenly would he wouldn't want to give the get? But the Rebbe put into his mind, you have to help him. So we see that you come to the oil, and you get, and this and he's not a Lubavitcher Chosek. He's a modern Orthodox rabbi in Flatbush. And he told us, he said, there's a Maisa Shahoya. I can give you the name of this young lady, and she'll tell you exactly what happened. So what do we see from all this? That we have to know the Rebbe's though. The whole nakud of all this is to say, we have to know the Rebbe's with us, and the Rebbe is listening to us, and the Rebbe's, as we said before, the Rebbe is ready to help each and every one, but we have to make the proper connection. We have to give him the proper vessel with which to receive the brachos that the Rebbe wants to give us. So we can sit over here and tell you more and more facts that are taking place. You can, you cannot deny it. These are actually things that are taking place. Many other different stories about Panos, about Gesund, about Shidduchim. One young man came to my office to say, you won't believe it. I have 2 daughters of age. When she gave me a shver, I can't find a Shidduch. So 3 months ago, I came to the oil, and I told the Rebbe, I'm going to give the Rebbe's Meisid a certain amount of money, but not because of that. I want to make a channel, and my channel will be the tzedakah, and it's not one bracha. And he says a week later, my daughter was introduced to a young man, Lubavitcher Chosid, and she gave off a weg. It's going to the proper direction. I decided to go again to ask for my second daughter. I came and I told the Rebbe, I'm going to add to that, I want to widen the channel. And 2 weeks later, she met a boy. So we see that as a gate. So come to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, and the Machta Keli, so Rebbe can go home, you get help. And may all this just to encourage us, to strengthen us, how much more we have to strengthen our emunah. And The Rebbe wanted not only the emunah should be for us, we have to strengthen our family, the wives and the children. That they often listen, as we find now that by the building of the Mishkan, who were the first ones that gave for the Mishkan were the women. And very interesting thing. We speak and we learned last week about the kiyur, to make or this with the Pashas Kisisa, the kiyur to make the faucet with which the kohenim had to wash their hands and feet. From what did they make this faucet? From the Maris Hatzovis. That was a copper thing that Bishas the Eibishter told the Yidden in Mitzrayim that they have to have children. The men refused. Of course, why? Because they knew that Pari is going to do so and so. Says in Hamedrash that the wives used to beautify themselves and took these copper pieces, what I want to call it, and showed it to the husband, and the husband should see them, and that he attracted them. When he came to build the Mishkan, so Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu refused to take these items. He said if these items were used for something not tzniusdik, he doesn't want to put them into the Beis into the Mishkan. Rashi says it. What does Rashi say? Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, that this is the first thing that has to be, because the women went on Mesiras Nefesh. They knew that was going to happen, and they knew that they have a munah that I'm going to save them. So these so mirrors, you want to call them, that they used in order to have children, that is the main thing that I want. And that's why that becomes the basis that a kohen was not allowed to do his aveda before he washed his hands with this faucet. So this faucet became, so to say, the foundation from which the kohen was able to do his aveda. So the Mesiras Nefesh of the women, that's what helps. So that's what the Rebbe said, that the women are the ones who have a gavaldik koyach that they could accomplish. So now when we speak over here, how much we have to strengthen our emunah, it has to be conveyed to them also. And they have emunah, but the Kevayete should hear more mices and more stories that will even make, and also the children should also be educated. There was one time the head of all the Mizrahi educational organizations in Eretz Yisrael. The Mizrahi is a modern Orthodox organization. When he came out of the Rebbe, he tells me that one of the things that I asked the Rebbe, what can we do in our educational organization to strengthen more Yiddishkeit, more Yerushalayim to the students? And you know what the Rebbe told me? Make sure that your curriculum, 3 times a week, the children should hear a Chasidish Maisa. And the Rebbe said, when a child hears a Chasidish Maisa, that imbues him, that gives him more in for Yerushalayim. So the Rebbe says, "Asipul from Atzadik, that's Meisef Yerushalayim." So our children have to hear more and more, as the Rebbe said, that the more, as I said, and we started off, that the more Sipurim they're going to hear, that will strengthen more and more the Yerushalayim. So these are some of the things that we should take with us, how much we have to help ourselves, strengthen ourselves, strengthen the family, the wives, the children, and the Nakuda is that we have to have Amunah Pshuta, that the Rebbe is with us. L'chaim, l'chaim. There was a family in Williamsburg, Hungarian family. At that time, they had a 16-year-old son. They took him out of the Hungarian yeshiva, and they sent him to Lubavitch. Of course, as time went on, this fellow became a full-fledged Lubavitcher Chosid. When he came to the time for a shidduch, so it was proposed to him about a shidduch. So the custom is to go in to the Rebbe, both sides, to ask the Rebbe whether to meet, and the Rebbe said to meet. He went and he called his parents, and he told them that there's a proposal about a shidduch, and the Rebbe gave okay to meet. So I want you to know. So the parents said, yeah, but we'd like to check out who she is, and I said, right. A few days later, they called him, and they said that although we had good regards, but you're 2 different types, and we don't think that you're going to merge together. So we don't think you should get involved with it. So he said, "By have a bracha from the Rebbe, we're your parents." At any rate, of course, they continued to meet till they came to a point that they were ready to get a bracha. So they sat down and wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and he wrote in his letter that his parents are not agreeable. And the Rebbe answered, "Yehei shidduch b'shotevu mislachos." They should go look through the shidduch, because the Ramah Paskins and Hilchos Kibbutz Ava'em that there are two areas that one does not necessarily have to obey his parents. One is where he wants to learn. The Olam Yilmud Odom B'Mokim Shali B'Chov. It's a place you should learn when he has a feeling. And when it comes to a shidduch, says the Ramah, he doesn't have to listen to them. He can even go against them, and he's not transgressing. So the Rebbe wrote, "Yehei shidduch b'shotevu mislachos." So the boy went and he called up his parents and told them Mazel Tov. What kind of Mazel Tov? He told you not to go. He said. A few days later, the mother came to 770, and she went into the Zal, and she went over to him, and she smacked him in his face. That's what the Bochum told me. And she told him, "You will not marry this young lady." When she came out, so the Bochum told her, "Why don't you go into the Rebbe, present your point of view, maybe the Rebbe will agree to you." And that's how I know the story, because she came into the office, and she told me the whole Meiser, and this was on a Tuesday. So I told her, "Come Thursday night, 9 o'clock with your husband, and you'll go in for Yechidus." She came 9 o'clock with her husband, and she went into Yechidus. The Bochum was standing outside, very anxious to hear what's going to be over here. When they came out, so the Bochum asked her, "No, we're 100% for the shidduch." So they asked her. So they said like this. When we came in, so my husband told her, presented to the Rebbe the reasons why we feel that it's not, a good thing. So this is what the Rebbe told us, they say. And the Rebbe told us that when a boy and a girl ask me whether to meet, before I answer them, I go up the Mila in heaven, and I check all the books about Shidduchim. If I don't see anything negative, I give my consent. When I received the letter from your son and the other party, I checked all the books of Shidduchim. I didn't see anything negative. I told them they should meet. When your son sent me the second letter, which they didn't know about, and in that letter he wrote that you are against it, so the Rebbe tells the parents, I thought maybe there was one Sefer HaShidduchim that I overlooked. So this time, the Rebbe says, they said the Rebbe told them that this time I made sure to go through all the books, and in none of the books did I see anything negative. That's why I gave the bracha. So they say that if over here is sitting a tzaddik, that he is able to go up in heaven, the Mila in Bashamayim, and he is able to check the books, and over there is nothing negative, who won't be to be negative? But what happened over here? The Rebbe should reveal that he is able to go up in heaven. And here the Rebbe says, and the Rebbe's Hatzon Lechus, he tries to conceal all his greatness. But because it came over here, Shalom Bayis, the Rebbe wanted to make a Shalom Bayis between the parents and the Bocher. And then eventually to make Shalom Bayis between the Bocher and his future wife. So the Rebbe stepped out, so to say, of his limitations, of his conduct, in order to help a family. But this Maisa shows us the Mesiras Nefesh on the Rebbe's part, that he should reveal to them things which he would try to conceal, but in order to help another family to make Shalom Bayis, the Rebbe passed that over, and he showed them what it is. Again, it's not over here to tell us the Koyach of the Rebbe that he's able to see. Yogas and Nishkas, that's not my business. You get an answer from the Rebbe, that's important to me. But here we're trying to learn from this Maisa how much you have to do Mitzad Abbas Yisrael. Sometimes, or maybe more than sometimes, you have to forego your, so to say, limitations, your standards, what you made for yourself, and sometimes you have to jump over that in order to help another person, help another family. That's the reason why we told this Maisa. The Rebbe went out of his way, contrary to what the Rebbe said, that his way is always hasan lechis? No. When it comes to a situation where I have to help somebody, all that falls by the sideway, and I have to help the people. So that's this. They would say the lesson of this Ma'aseh how much we have to have Abbas Yisrael. So they shall help in all these different things over here should strengthen each and every one of us in the moon and the Rebbe, in the chaskas and the Rebbe, and that we should fulfill what the Rebbe asks us to do. The one thing is what you're doing over here to making these shuls and all the other mitzvahs that we're doing. The Nakuda over here is that by doing this, we are strengthening our connection. And David shall help that we shall not have to speak about all this. And as the saying is in Yiddish, we should be able to see the Rebbe in the physical body. It says by Yankov Avinu that Bishas Yosef didn't come. It says, Yankov refused to be consoled by the family. So Rashi says, the Gemara said that you don't receive condolence for a living being. Being that Yosef HaTzadik was all alive, Yankov didn't know that he was alive. And the Rebbe says, Yankov Avinu tells his children, everything you told me about Yosef HaTzadik is very, very appreciable. But so long, the Rebbe said, I don't see Yosef in front of my eyes, and I cannot touch him with my physical body, I have no condolence. My only condolence is when I'll see him with my physical eyes, and I'll be able to touch him. This is why we have to tell the Kodesh Baruch Hu. All these interesting things that are being told, how the Rebbe's mitzvah hand in hand, that's not our condolence. The only way you can console us is b'shas we'll see the Rebbe l'matla masarat tvachim. We won't touch him, but we should be able to touch him, and then we know that that's our nacham. And David says, that it should be taken from Yad Mamish.
Amen.
L'chaim, l'chaim.